All right, so the RNC dominated the headlines this week in politics. So what were the big moments, the takeaways, and the surprises? We have two guests tonight. Let's bring in Democratic commentator Jonathan Harris. He is on that side, and our friend Jack Calavertino's former Bush and Trump White House senior advisor, they're both up late with me tonight here on the Final Five and live. Gentlemen, good to see you both.
Good to be here.
Thanks, Jim.
Jack, I'm going to start with you because I believe this is how it goes. It was the Republican National Convention. What struck me first and foremost going into this, Jack, was this was the first time that Donald Trump was able to speak before a crowd where they were all on his side, because 2016 was a much different story.
Yeah, people forget about that it really was divided. And then you had 2000, and that was weird because of the because of COVID and hybrid. But so the unity factor in terms of the GOP, I wrote a list here, and that is at the absolute top of my list is the unity and enthusiasm. In fact, Van Jones, I've never quoted Van Jones before, but he said that something is happening that he hasn't seen since 2008 with Obama in terms of the enthusiasm that he saw in that convention hall.
What do you think, Jonathan?
Van Jones is on a roll with saying as many things as he can that Republicans and Trump supporters will agree with. I think my co-panelists and I have in common that I very rarely agree with Van Jones. I found that convention to be one of the most surreal, borderline disturbing, but just ridiculous moments in American politics. I mean, from Hulk Hogan coming out and ripping his shirt to reveal a Trump shirt underneath to picking a vice president who has, I mean, literally insulted Trump more times than anyone that I can think of. And their entire primary premise was saying that the events that happened at the Trump rally were due to rhetoric like calling Donald Trump Hitler, and he chose a vice president that also called him America's Hitler. It was just the fake bandages that people were wearing on their ears. I was like, okay, is this going to replace the red Trump hat? It was almost unbelievable at times. And I think with Trump's speech, I'm sorry.
Please.
Go ahead,
I think with Trump's speech, I think that he, once again, there have been moments in his political career where he could have climbed up and risen to the moment. The Black Lives Matter protests, COVID, there were all these opportunities where he could have turned into a statesman. Well, I think because of the events at his rally, he could have used that sympathy to try to bring people together. But no, he started attacking Nancy Pelosi, calling her crazy. So, you know, as much as they used the word unity, there was the same old divisive, awful message.
But the way it started, and I'll go back to you on this one, Jack, because he recounted what happened in Butler, you know, which was like, I was 30 miles away from where that was happening. I know that area very well. I remember that. And really, it was captivating. I think regardless of where you stand, as you hear that story and everything that played out, that was a captivating story. But as you and I went back and forth on social media tonight, we get the remarks beforehand, and we know that he likes to go off script. I mean, tonight was no exception.
Yes, and the beginning and the end were fantastic in terms of a speech, and those were the scripted parts. But the middle was the rally, and it was him recounting, which is what every presidential candidate has done and should do, why they're running and what they think is wrong with America that they want to fix, and then talking about how he'll do it. Now, it wasn't so organized, and he goes on riffs, but he laid out the case. And I'm really surprised my co-panelist would be so dismissive of this. This is days after an assassination attempt. It was one of the most amazing moments when he balked. I'd like to see any of us get shot in the ear and almost get killed, and then walk back into a huge arena and have the wherewithal over 4 days to sit through the speeches, not go through PTSD, and then get up there in a very measured tone. You know, he could have been like some Democrats do, where they rile up the crowd so much that you would have riots tomorrow. But instead, he had a very measured tone. And I thought that it was one of the best conventions, and I've been going to them since '84, that I've ever been a part of. So the convention itself, to me, was even more important than his actual speech, what that convention represented.
I would have had a little bit more sympathy, and my heart would have gone out to him if he didn't rile up political violence at his rallies, at events just like that. So no, I wasn't. When he made jokes about Nancy Pelosi's husband having his head bashed in with a hammer and suggesting that gun owners should go do something about Hillary Clinton if she won, telling people at his rallies to beat the crap out of people and that he would pay their legal bills. Yeah, sorry, I'm not going to have much.
So you think it's okay that he was shot then? Do you actually think it's okay that he was shot because the other side has prosecuted him and said that he's against democracy? I mean, that is honestly one of the silliest things I've heard on any of.
That's not what I said.
Jack, I know what you're getting at.
That's not what I said, and you know that's not what I said.
No, but I know
that's not what I said.
But this is indicative of the conversations that are being had right now, and we should point out that what we've learned from investigation so far is that there was no evidence that this political rhetoric drove Crooks to shoot. He was a disturbed individual. So I know that we've had those discussions before. Trump has said
and
those
a Trump
things.
Supporter.
Well, but he also donated to a progressive PAC at some point. There seems to be no clear. We don't have a what do you call it, a manifesto or anything along those lines. But I want to put Thomas Crooks out of the discussion altogether. We got to move forward with this. So I want you guys to hang on for a second. We're going to reset. We're going to come back because we got to talk about what's coming up next here. Jonathan, Jack, stick around. We're back after this here on the Final Five. Welcome back. The political world's now turning their eyes to the DNC next month and the election come November. So what's changed and what's next? Jonathan and Jack are back here to talk about it. So here's the deal, Jonathan. We know that the Republican ticket is going to be Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. There seems to be the speculation continuing over whether or not President Biden will be on the ticket. As you look at this from your position on the left, where do you think things go?
Well, in my career in doing political commentary, I've been doing it for about a decade now. I avoid like the plague making political predictions because I always say it's the easiest way to end up with egg on your face. I go with what we know at the moment, and what we know at the moment for sure is that President Biden has the mandate from 14 million primary voters to be the nominee. He says that he's staying in the race, and the overwhelming majority of Democrats have said that they support Biden and they back him. So assuming that that remains the case, I mean, Donald Trump could drop out tomorrow. Anything could happen. But for right now, this is the nominee and the presumptive nominee. And so if he is a nominee going forward, look, there was a new poll that just came out of 538 that has him winning the Electoral College in the election. So, you know, I've seen a million polls and I kind of try to avoid them because at the end of the day, you know, polls aren't really verifiable that, you know, anybody can produce a poll, networks, news publications. But there's no reason I see for him to drop out unless he himself wishes to do so. And he's been very clear that he doesn't.
Jack, I saw Jonathan was mentioning polls, and he's right, because I saw a poll that said in Virginia that Biden was ahead. I saw another one that said Trump was ahead. But do you remember the date when you came on the show, well before all of this kicked up before the debate, and you thought that the president would not see it through to November?
Yeah, I mean, I at least threw it out I don't want to say that I predicted it, but I mean, I at least threw out the idea that I thought that there was a chance that he would be replaced and that people should look to someone like Michelle Obama as someone that would be much stronger for the Democrats than Joe Biden with his growing, you know, issues let's just say. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm surprised to hear what was just said, because this is unprecedented that you have major leaders in the party, grassroots leaders in the party, and donors all in July, almost August, saying that the incumbent president should step down because he is so weak that he is likely going to lose. So, like Jonathan, I have no idea who it's going to be, but this is not where any party ever wants to be going into their convention and going into September.
So, Jonathan,
I do.
Go ahead.
I will say that I do agree that it is extremely unfortunate to watch these Democrats willing to sort of cannibalize themselves, which is absolutely foolish. I mean, look, if there were concerns, you handle that behind the scenes. I mean, on the right, you have the entire Republican Party is standing behind a convicted felon who has charges coming out of the roof still.
Thanks to the Biden administration
by a
and
jury
Democratic prosecutors.
found by a jury to have engaged in sexual assault. I could go down the list, but there's no break in the Republican side. They're supporting him. And Biden has a not great debate performance. And you've got far too many, like I said, the majority of Democrats stand by Biden, but far too many Democrats clutching their pearls. It's embarrassing and definitely not something, I will agree with my co-panelists there, not something that should be happening. Those are discussions that should happen privately and publicly. It should be a united front.
So Jack, as we go through, we get past the RNC, we'll see the polls come out, and there's always a little bit of a bump one way or another, depending on where you see it go. What do you want to see Donald Trump do after this? I mean, is it a matter of giving some sort of policy speech where if he can stick to his script on this one and try to bring, because look, right now, it's not about winning. People are going to vote for Joe Biden. We know people are going to vote for a Democrat no matter what, and we know people are going to vote for Donald Trump or a Republican no matter what. How do you get the people in the middle?
Yeah, I think that in talking to other Republicans and just seeing what people are writing about, but really talking to people that I trust, is the common theme is he has shown incredible discipline over the last couple months of not putting out the tweets or the statements that sometimes step on messages. And lots of observers have said that this is his best of his 3 campaigns. So continuing the discipline. But you mentioned policy. I think it would actually be a good idea, to tell you the truth, as a political person myself, to give separate speeches on the elements of policy that he touched on tonight that are part of his America First Policy Institute that I'm very proud to be an advisor to. I think that would actually be a smart thing, because the rally speech
is he going to address
has its
Project
time and
2025?
place, but also policy as well.
Go ahead, Jonathan. I'll give you the last word on this because we're just about out of time.
I was just wondering if he had planned to address Project 2025 that he claims he doesn't know anything about, except all of its architects and the organization that came up with it. He's spoken of. I want to say real quickly before, I did not say that I was happy that he was shot at or whatever. I didn't say that. What I said was, as a person who injected quite a bit of violence in our political rhetoric, Donald Trump, it's hard to give sympathy when a student who was killed at a school shooting, he said, we just have to get over it. So that's what I was saying. I didn't say that I was glad that the events occurred at that rally. Someone was killed.
I'm sorry you can't give him sympathy.
I just want to be clear about that.
He's been the victim of a lot of political violence rhetoric himself. So I'm sorry you can't give him sympathy after being
he injects it into our politics, and you know that. If you are being an honest broker, you know that no one in modern American politics has infused more violent rhetoric into our politics than Donald Trump. January 6th was not a visit to the Capitol. It was because of Donald Trump. And people lost, 4 people, I believe, lost their lives there. I mean, let's be honest about what his rhetoric has been.
Gentlemen, I thank you both. I mean, it's a tough discussion to have, especially this late at night, but I appreciate you both coming in. Jonathan, Jack, good to see you both. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Jim.
And the Final Five is back after this.